Hello, everyone. Just seemed quite delayed there coming in. I was just making sure on that side that we were on YouTube. So, yes, welcome everyone to Smoker Spirits Boutique live stream again. So, this is the second of our Irish whiskey tastings that we've done. And obviously, as usual, as you guys start coming in, if you can just drop comments to let me know that you're here and visiting. I know we've got quite a few. Again, watching from the same household, which is good. A few little bubbles getting together. And we've also got quite a few people that can't join us live today, so they're watching back tomorrow. So in advance for everyone watching tomorrow, hope you enjoy the evening. Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, good to see you guys. Because you were one of the guys that actually said you might not be able to join us today, but now you are. So that's good. And we've got some fabulous whiskies from Waterford for today. And it's been good doing these two Irish whiskey tastings because there's not a lot of people that do know the Irish whiskies, and it's one of those things you kind of had to educate in the same light as we have for newer whiskies like Japanese and things like that. You know, once you bring them to the attention, they end up becoming people's favourites. And the first one was such a success. We said we'd come straight to bat with some great Irish whiskies, and this particular one is now a dedicated tasting, put it that way, to Waterford. And you'll see there you've been sport by 5. So you've got the bonus extra one there rather than 4. So we've got plenty of decent ones. And I'll obviously leave the guys to explain why, but all of these are just double checking at 50%. So you've got some good strength there as well. And it should lead to a great evening. So no Jazz tonight, you got me, which is good because it means I actually got to bring the bottles back with me. So as we start going through, I should point out the bottles. And we're going in the order of what you've got. So bottle 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. General housekeeping stuff in terms of once we're live, generally, I believe anyone that connects on our system in terms of hosters, that if anything happens to my connection, it transfers hosting to the other one. So for any reason, if I drop off, we should be staying live. If ever your screen does drop, just come back to YouTube and refresh, and I'll always get us back up and running as soon as we can. If any of our guests have any issues, again, we'll bring them out, we'll reset them and bring them back in. But touch wood, we won't have any issues. We've been pretty good recently. Other than that, you should guys have a tasting glass. I've got my trusted little Norland glass here. A lot of you have already bought tasting glasses in the past, so have those ready. Also a nice glass of water just to kind of cleanse your palate in between. And we might also try and just, add that drop of water if we do and see if there's any different notes at that point. Other than that, we haven't really got any other tastings booked in right this second. There's definitely going to be one for Father's Day, which will be announced within the next week or so. So just keep your eye out on our social medias and our emails for that. But other than that, let's get on with the evening, and then I'll back myself out, just go and do our normal social checks, the shares as normal, and then we'll get going. So let me introduce, first of all, Steph into the stream, which I'll just bring her in now. Hello.
Hiya.
How you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, not too bad. Not too bad. Looking forward to some whiskies, put it that way, after a long day.
Totally ready.
So what I'll do is I'm going to drop out and just have a look and make sure no one's lost, and then share our channels. And I'll leave you introduce our extra special guests, and then we'll get going. And I'll pop back in. I'll kind of jump on you at some point.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. So some of you might recognize me if you've done, we did Asian whiskey recently. I've done Nika and Kavalan and Michter's and a few other brands with you before. I work with an importer in the UK, so we bring delicious, delicious whiskies into the country. And we started working with Waterford just over a year ago because they launched a year and a couple of months ago. So really excited to be able to bring you a range of Waterford whiskies this evening. Really, really unusual actually as well, because I know you're focusing on Irish whiskey. So these guys are kind of very different from your traditional Irish whiskey. And we're super lucky this evening because we also have the head distiller of Waterford, Ned, joining us. So he'll be able to jump on in just a wee sec and say hello as well and be able to talk us through the whiskies that you're tasting. So he's the guy who's made it, which is absolutely amazing. Here he is. Hiya.
Hello, Steph. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us.
And you as well. I see I'm surrounded by greenery on the screen there, aren't I?
Yes, absolutely. Just to make you feel at home, although you are at home.
I am at home, yeah.
So we're going to do a lovely little tasting. So I'm not sure if you've seen Tomoko before. Obviously, everything launched while lockdown was on. So we've not actually managed to drag you around all the amazing different retailers in the UK yet.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I think in July,
that's right. So Tomoko are in St Albans, and they are fantastic and do regular tastings. So one of our absolute favourites. So you can usually get there from London. I usually get there and back in an evening. Really lovely. So let's kick off, because I think we should do a little introduction to Waterford first and yourself, and then sort of get into the tasting. So Ned, tell us about the beginnings of Waterford, and you were right there since the beginning.
Yeah, firstly, delighted to be here with Tomoko and doing the tasting. And yeah, I suppose you're right. We are a different style to Irish whiskey, but we get into that. Waterford Distillery started up by Mark Rainier, who had been previously at Brookladdy and bought a former Guinness brewery in the end of 2014. And in 2015, then we started to renovate it to a distillery. So Guinness or Diageo had spent 40 million euros on the site, transforming it from a conventional brewery to a site that made Guinness Foreign Extra or Guinness Essence for export to Africa and about 40 different markets. So basically, we sent over a concentrated Guinness with no alcohol and no water, and they added it to a base beer, and they had Guinness. Not like your pint of Guinness, but something a bit different, about 8% strength. So in 2013, in the end of 2013, they actually closed it down. They closed Waterford, Kilkenny, and Dundalk breweries. And 2 of the 3 are now distilleries, ourselves and Dundalk. So John Teeling bought Dundalk, and he has the Great Northern Distillery up there. So 2016, then we started distilling. And I suppose what we are doing is we are looking at barley. And we are looking at single farms and where the barley comes from, and saying that, the flavour of our whiskey is from the barley. So I suppose our tagline is barley is king and provenance is all. and I suppose that, we're kind of known for terroir, which is what affects the plant, in our case the barley, how it affects the flavors. But we also look at we call it the 3 T's: terroir, traceability, and transparency. So we can tell you when the grain was sown and everything that happened to it until it gets to your table in front of you there at home in the bottle. And if you have a bottle of Waterford, you can look at the back of it and you can look at the terroir code and you can get all that information. So I suppose that's kind of that in a nutshell. And I'm kind of conscious it's a bank holiday Friday. I presume it's bank holiday for you as well?
No, we had it last weekend. So last Monday we had off. So you were behind. I didn't realize.
Bank holiday for us.
For you. You're getting a long weekend.
Yeah. So I was going to say I have my first one poured.
Let's launch in. I'm in. I'm ready.
So if everyone wanted to have a pour of, I think we're starting with Lakefield, is it?
That's right. Lakefield 1.1.
1.1. So
yeah, carry on, Ned.
Yeah, so I suppose what we have here, we have 5 samples, and 4 of the 5 are what we would call single farm origins, or SFOs. So they're from one farm. And we keep each farm separate throughout the whole process. So from when it's obviously harvested, it's collected, dried, stored, malted, brewed, distilled, and cast separately altogether. So that's what we have here. So the first one is Lakefield, and I suppose we might just get into Lakefield and we can talk about the process and stuff as we go, if that's okay.
I think it makes perfect sense. And I think also for people who maybe aren't aware, like a lot of distilleries, when the barley that they're getting is, loads of farms, potentially loads of countries mixed together. And maybe people are, if they're more used to Scotch, most Scotches are buying from malt houses. Those malt houses are buying barley from wherever they can get it. And it's not always it's not always 100% Scottish barley. Very rarely so.
Yeah, and even like a lot of the Irish whiskey, is not the barley or the grain is not from Ireland. Like a lot of, would say, pot still whiskey in Ireland, it's maize from France, it's some barley from Ireland, but I suppose a lot of the time they don't even know where the origins of the grains are, and that's grand for distilleries. I suppose all I can do is say what we do. I'm not going to knock what other distilleries are doing. All I can talk about is what we do, and what we do is we only use Irish grain. And it's around, initially it was going to be around the southeast of Ireland, but we have grain now from all over the country, from north, south, east and west, which is a little bit unusual. And we have farmers who are actually looking to get involved in this with the distillery. And I suppose one of the reasons is because when you think of barley or any grain, cattle, milk, sheep, hens, anything at all, the farmer doesn't know where their produce ends up. For Lakefield, which is Seamus Duggan up in County Laois, that's his barley that he looked after in 2015. It was distilled in 2017, and now it's in a bottle all over the world. And he knows exactly the field it was done from and everything. So the farmers are our first point of sale. They're our first salespeople, because they're trying to promote their own grain, and they're saying, well, my grain is better than David Welch chemist's grain down the road, or Martin Foley's grain down in Wexford. So it's a great battle. We have the farmers coming in once a year as well, who have grown for us in that calendar crop year, and they have great battles in saying, oh, mine is better than yours, or they might taste their own new make spirit. And, the differences are sometimes very subtle, because they are literally neighbours, and other times then they're just worlds apart.
But I mean, for a farmer, it must be such an amazing feeling to the bottle's called Waterford, but then on the label is the name of their farm. Lakefield is a farm. That is where all the barley's come from. And, as a farmer, having grown that barley, that just must be such an amazing thing.
Like one of the farmers said to me, to think that my whiskey could be on a shelf anywhere in the world, but more importantly, I can walk into my local pub, I can see my own bottle up behind the shelf, and he can say, I'll have a drop of my own whiskey.
And they're calling it their own whiskey as well. I love that.
It's their own whiskey. It's, because it is to a certain extent, but the pride actually was just beaming off them. And we don't, I suppose we don't have a contract with the farmers. We have a contract with Minch Malt, and Minch Malt have a contract with the farmers. But we have a great relationship with the farmers, because they want to grow for us. We've been out to all their farms, and we know the people as well, and we have good crack with a lot of them, and they want to be involved. I suppose with the first one, we might just talk about Seamus. Seamus is a bit of a character, Seamus Duggan, and he's in County Laois. And if you get to look at the Terroir page, there's I think there's a video of Seamus on it, and he talks about it, and he and that. But one of the other things that we do with all the bottlings as well is we have a sound of Lakefield. So we sent a guy out who did some audio from each of the farms, and it's there as well. So I suppose the first thing anyway is Sláinte, and I'll just give you a little introduction to Lakefield. And this was a global release. Hookhead and Lakefield were the recent global releases, and I think Lakefield is about 3 years, 7 months, and about 28 or 29 or 30 days. So it's just over 3.5 years old.
28.
Again, they're young whiskies, but we don't talk about them in their age. That's just the age they are. I think they stand up to be a little bit more than that. But there you go. And like this is Seamus Duggan, and Seamus is in County Laois, which is in the Midlands. And I suppose it's about probably about 100 kilometers from the distillery or thereabouts. So it's not too far up the road from us. So this would have been crop, I think, 16 actually, and distilled in 17, and would have been bottled around February of this year, I think. We would have done that. And Seamus's land then is on an Elton soil series. I suppose we look into the different soil series that the farmers are on. And I suppose Elton would be a fine, loamy soil series there. And part of the Terroir Project, we were looking at the different soil series. And actually, Elton gives us a clovey, what I would call a barnyard note, but it's a note I really enjoy. It's a fresh barnyard. Mightn't sound the best, but I think it's quite nice.
We're getting quite a few people saying apple, but when you bite into an apple from an orchard rather than an apple from a supermarket, I think that's also got a bit of a barnyardy smell to it as well sometimes.
And it's an Irina variety. So I'm just going to have a nose on this. So when I nose this, I'm getting, it's like bacon bread. It's like that kind of a note for me. There's a red apple, like when you mention apple, it smells like a red apple for me there. And there's a note that I get a good bit. It's a custard note, and I really like it. But it's kind of a rhubarb and apple and custard combined together. Like it's really kind of earthy and warm for me.
It's a crumble. It's a
crumble. Yeah, crumble. Yeah, well, you put it all together, it's a crumble. Yeah, should have just said crumble. There you go, Steph.
I was just going to say apple crumble. That's what was in my head.
Yeah. And there's a bit of a
it's nutty,
chocolate.
yeah, like nutty, pecans, walnuts.
Yeah. There's actually I'm kind of getting a pine needle kind of note off it as well. But it's this is 50%. It's non-chill filtered. It's no coloring, no E150. So it's natural. It's barley, water, yeast, and the cask. So I'm just going to have a little taste of this, Sláinte.
I'm so surprised at the depth of flavour in it. And you're saying it's only 3.5 years old then, or just over 3 years?
About 3 years and 8 months.
Wow.
So yeah. So we don't really, we have the age on it because we know the age, but we don't talk about it because I suppose this stands up for me. This stands up with a 10-year-old or older, and it's not to be boastful about it, but it belies the youth a little bit of it, and that's just maybe that's down to the way we distill. We actually double distill, which is a little bit different, but we run our stills really, really slowly, and that gives us the really good oils. Like I would have on my taste notes about oils, and at this stage now I can't think of any more ways of talking about the oils, because if I'm looking at the glass there, I can just see really thick oils that grip the glass. They're really slow, and that's an indication of how they go down your throat, kind of. Yeah, but just on the taste on this,
to the palate for a long time.
Yeah, just on the taste on this, there's a kind of a gentle clove at the start.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And there's a little bit of pepperiness there, and it just travels back, and there's kind of I don't know what you call it, a pear drop. Those pear drop sweets?
Yeah, like the bowl sweet.
Yeah, that maybe it's a little bit glycerol or a little bit sweet as well.
It's very sweet actually. It's very, very to my palate. I like that kind of nice sweeter start to it. I almost get notes of cinnamon as well.
Yeah, there's a little bit of spice there, and there's a bit of a malted biscuit note there now as well. Just sitting there nicely.
This is still feeding into crumble for me. It's just everything is just crumble.
Yeah, there is a nice bit of crumble there, yeah. And a bit of cinnamon on the top of the crumble.
Yeah, exactly. Like you've made a good crumble because you've added some spices to it.
Yeah, yeah.
You've used some really nice biscuits.
Yeah. But like for me as well, the finish just travels along. It's nice and easy. It never really goes. It's just sitting there, and it's a nice, gentle, I suppose, dry spice there. Like it's not really spicy, but there's a dryness to it that's nearly turning mouth-watering for me, which sounds a bit odd, but that's what I'm getting.
Yeah. And the other thing as well,
want you to take another sip.
Yeah.
With the double distillation process you're talking about, I think that's definitely helping when it comes to the smoothness of it, because you wouldn't automatically think this is 50%.
No, but I suppose this is the one thing I've kind of been talking about to other people as well, is, you know, when they're talking about double and triple distillation, I can change this spirit. I suppose when we talk about barley and spirit and stuff, so the barley, we believe, gives us the flavor, right? And the way we brew and distill gives us a distillery style. So we're looking for a light, elegant, fruity, floral spirit. And I can get that by having a really long fermentation. I think this fermentation is around 140 hours, which is hugely long. Like, we're not in this to make a heap of money because the way we're doing things is just totally ridiculous. Like, normal fermentation would be 50, 60, maybe 70 hours, but this is 140 hours. So we're looking for secondary fermentation in what we're doing, and we're looking for what's called a malolactic fermentation to give us a bit more fruitiness, right? So we can get that with the fermentation, and the way we distill then is really low and slow, really take our time, and by doing that, we're promoting the lighter vapors to turn back to spirit. So if I wanted to get heavier vapors getting turned back to spirit, I'd increase the steam and drive those heavy spirits back over the lye arm and get spirit. Or if I wanted to change the cuts, we have a really, really tight middle cut. So we would start maybe at about 75 or 76 ABV, and we go down to about 66 or 65 and a half. But you could go down to 64 or 63, and you could affect the style of spirit by that. You're not necessarily changing the flavors, but you can change the style of spirit. So double or triple distillation can, you know, smoothness and that, but the way you distill, I think, is as important as the double or triple distillation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. This is a bonus of having a distiller doing the talking, you see. You get the ins and outs.
It's like this. I'm learning every day as well, because this is my first distilling job. I was a brewing before that. But what I would just say too on this on the Lakefield is, for most of our farms we have 4 cask types: American Force Fill, American Virgin, French Premium wine casks, and VDN, what we call Vin du Natural. So they are sweet fortified wines, sherry, port, Madeira, Marsala, Sautern, Riesling, those types of casks. So Lakefield, I think, is 46% American Force Fill, 23% American Virgin, 15% French Premium, and 16% VDN or Vin du Natural. So that's the composition of the casks that we've used. So when I'm talking about VDN, I know the casks that went into this were Marsala and port casks. And I know the wine casks were, as far as I know, they were mostly Margaux casks that went into it. So when you look at it like that, then, you know, what I'm doing is, each farm we roughly fill about 200 casks. Okay, so when I'm doing the putting the casks together part, and we don't quite call it blending, because I think when you call it blending, people have a different idea of what blended whiskey is. But what it is, it's putting the single farm together. It's going and picking the casks and putting them together in a balanced way, where the 4 cask types are in harmony, and they're giving something to the whiskey as well. So, you know, that's the breakdown, I suppose, of this. I seem to be doing all the talking.
Well, it's a great intro to Waterford as a starting point. I mean, wow. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So I suppose, as people are going through, they might say, listen, I prefer this one or this one or this one. And, everyone is different, because what I like about whiskey is everyone's taste is their own taste.
Mm.
There's no right, there's no wrong. If I'm saying I'm getting buttered biscuits, someone else might go say, I can't get that at all. That's fair enough, because everyone is different. But the thing with whiskey is barley is one of the most complex grains in the world. And there's so many flavors and components that are there. You won't get them all, and different people get different things. And I think as well is whiskey for me is an atmospheric drink. And, depending on, if you're out with friends in a pub, which we haven't been for 12 or 15 months, or if you're at home in front of the fire on a wet night, you get different things. Those components are in the whiskey.
That's what makes people always come back to whiskey as well. I think, otherwise, if it tasted the same every time and every bottling was exactly the same, you'd taste it once and be like, cool, I've got tick done. Whereas, your favorite bottle you can go back to 1,000 times and still be like, oh my God, I've just suddenly got this flavor that
discover something different. And the other thing is, when we leave this out for a half an hour, you come back to it. And even though it's 50%, it doesn't taste, you don't get the alcohol. If you come back in a half an hour, the alcohol is kind of burnt off or gone off a little bit. You come back and you get something different. And what I love doing is when the glass is empty, when you've spilt it, down your throat, obviously, when you've spilt it, and go back and smell the empty glass, and you're smelling just the liquid, and you get so much from that. I get so much from that, just smelling the empty glass. I find you actually get different notes than when the liquid is in the glass.
It's the same putting a little bit in your hand and rubbing it as well, like it spreads all the flavors out.
Yeah.
But just to talk about people emptying glasses, actually, just for this evening, I might be too late for the first one, but try not to finish your samples every time. If you've got enough glasses, try and go through them and then come back and forwards between the farms, because everything will change the order we taste them in. So we're going to taste them in a specific order, but feel free to wander back down the line later on if you're able to leave yourselves little splashes.
Yeah, and another thing then as well is we have 5 samples, but if you had 7 or 8 different glasses, you can actually make your own whiskey then at the end of it. You can take a bit of Lakefield, a bit of Hookhead, a bit of Gia, and put it together, and that's your whiskey. You've made it. That's the thing about the single farms, where you can, if you have a bottle and some of your friends in a whiskey club or mates or whatever have different bottles, you can actually taste them together and you can mix them together and you can make your own cuvee. We're going to have the cuvee out, Steph, in September, hopefully. And I suppose that's going to be about 25 single farms. And, that'll be the Waterford cuvee. But, if you have a few bottles, you can make your own. Or if you have a few drops left, you can make your own.
And so that's well in its way, right, Ned? You've started with the blending, the marrying process. The
marrying. Yeah. So it started off. We started off with. I got it. Are we allowed to use bad language? I started off with a shitload of samples, right, from Ballygarn, from the different farms, different casks, and put them together. And got to about 19 farms, and I was happy enough. And then when I put them together and left them for about a week, I was kind of saying needs a little bit more. It's complex, but it needs. So I ended up with 25 single farms and a bit of organic in there for good luck. So there's 25 single farms and organic there. Now, rightly or wrongly, I had to send a sample to Mark Rainier. So that's going to go on Monday. So hopefully he doesn't come back and say, this is not good enough or need this, whatever. So it's marrying away. And so I'm happy with it. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Super exciting. And that's been kind of what the distillery's been working towards. Obviously, first few years working towards Terroir Project, let's show everyone that the terroir difference, and maybe we should spend a bit of time talking about what terroir is actually. Between farms. But the main, then, the ultimate kind of thing was then ending up with this cuvee, this combination of single farms together. So maybe let's explain that.
Yeah. So I suppose, what Mark ultimately wants is, and he has said this many times, he wants, and Steph is laughing because she knows what I'm going to say, he wants a mind fuck of a whiskey. Right?
We're just launching straight into the battle.
He just wants this. He just wants this, right? And like he said, it might be the best whiskey in the world. We hope it is, but it's definitely going to be the most profound whiskey in the world, where we can. And it's a huge statement. It's a big statement. I'm saying that, and I'm putting it together. And I'm kind of going, I'm putting myself on a
I feel like a bit of a wanker.
Okay, but listen, I think it's great. I don't care about anyone else. But so this is what he wanted. He wants to make the most profound whiskey in the world by keeping the farm separate. And people said, well, sure, if you're keeping it separate, why do you put them together? We can put them together any which way we want. It's like I equate it to like a chef. Like, I'm not saying I'm a Michelin star chef, but if you can imagine a Michelin star chef and you go to a Michelin star restaurant and you see a plate in front of you and there might be only 4 or 5 things on the plate, there could be 40 ingredients in that, or there could be 40 or 50 processes that go in to make that, okay? And that's what we're doing. So I'm going to Ballygarn, and in year 1, I have 6,500 casks. I'm looking at and I'm going, okay, I'm going to pick these. And for the cuvee, I picked 148 casks because I'm making it for certain volumes as well. So, you can't get every cask together. But it's like that. You're going and you're picking out casks and you're picking out this and you're picking out that and you're going, the sum of all its parts is going to be what we call a mille-feuille, or layers and layers and layers of flavor. So it's going to challenge your nose, and it's going to challenge your taste buds. And when you come back to it after a couple of weeks or a year, if it's that long, you may get different things from it. Like, it's not going to be the same experience every time. And the first time you sit down with it, you'll. For me, I like whiskey because it brings me to memories. If I could put memories on my tasting notes, I would. Because I think, when you smell it, you can say you're smelling foods or flowers or whatever, but often it brings you to a point in time where you were young, or you're in your youth, when you were out having crack or whatever. I presume crack in England is the same as crack in Ireland.
Absolutely, totally fine.
Because I said that to an American audience a while ago, and everyone was kind of going. So but so like sometimes whiskey is a memory or evokes memories. So it's a bit like that. And I'd like to put in tasting notes music, even though I don't. Like, you smell something and it's like it smells like a 60s jazz song, and you taste it and it's an 80s punk rock. It just smacks you, and it just, you're not expecting it. And our whiskey sometimes does that. The nose and the taste don't quite match, but I find it in a good way.
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, in fact, a lot of times if ever I pick out that kind of the pear drop note, which you mentioned earlier, that again always evokes memories of my nan, because I remember then the tins of these pear drops covered in dust. You always used to try and sneak one out, but you'd never be able to sneak it because the dust would get everywhere and make a mess. And that memory always comes into my head whenever I then have a whiskey that's got that kind of note to it.
And that's the thing. It just evokes something that's, a pleasant memory. Like, you know what I mean? You smile, and no one else knows that note. You know it, and for you that adds to the whiskey. Like,
yeah, definitely. Cool. I mean, let's obviously let's move on to the second one, because we've been on the first one now, and I think that was everyone did enjoy it. Some great notes on that one as well. I think let me just change the scroll bar so we know everyone's on to bottle 2. So we are, like I said, running in order. And this is the Ballymorgan.
Ballymorgan, okay.
Yeah. 1.2.
That's the
So
one.
should we explain the numbers, Ned?
Oh, yes. This can get a bit complicated, and I've put a challenge to Mark Newton for something else, because I will just start anyway. So Ballymorgan 1.1, we're tasting 1.2 now, but I'll just explain what 1.1 was. So 1.1, so the first one is the first time that we actually distilled, or the first time we used Ballymorgan or Robert Millen's grain. Okay, so, and the 0.1 is the first bottling from that grain. Okay, so we're going to taste 1.2, which is the first grain from Robert Millen, but it's the second bottling from that grain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we may do a 2.1. So that will be the second time we've used Robert Millen's grain. So it could be the following year, or it could be 2 or 3 years after that. And it could be 2.1, which will be the first bottling from that batch of grain. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think so.
I was going to say, actually, the actual bottling is very stunning. It's a lovely design. And I've just noticed from the back here as well that you've actually got this Terroir code. So it says, to discover this whiskey's remarkable provenance, enter this code on waterfordwhiskey.com, and then you'll get obviously a whole backlog on
So that's the Terroir code. If you go onto the website, our website, Waterford, you'll see Terroir up top right, I think. And if you click on that, it'll ask you for the code. You put in that code, and it'll give you a good bit of information.
It's basically this code on the back.
Yeah, I think on each farm we have about 8,000 data points that we've collated. Now we can't give you all of that, but we give you a good chunk. So we'll give you we'll give you a picture of the farm. We'll give you the breakdown from the farm, land, elevation, how many hours sunlight that crop had gotten. And I suppose we just want to mention that, like, the reason barley does well in the southeast of Ireland and in Ireland is because of sunlight, which sounds a bit ridiculous, but when I'm talking about sunlight, in the summer we will have 13 or 14 hours of light, daylight, okay? And the barley plant loves that. Like, if you're in Australia, you get a lot of sun, but your days are never really long. Like, if you're out there in the summer, it's still going to be dark at 7 o'clock or 7:30. Whereas last night here, it was still bright at 10:15. And that's what the barley plant looks for. So if you go on to any of the farms there, you'll see one of them is probably daylight between 5 and 5.5 hours. And we have weather information. We were able to tap into the nearest weather station legally, I might add, tap into the nearest weather station to the farm, and we're able to collate all that information as well. So that's part of the information that we have. So so if you go on to Ballymorgan or Hookhead or wherever, you'll see all that information.
Excellent.
What I'll do this evening actually is post some of these links to these pages and the thing, because I don't think we're going to have time. There, like Ned says, there's millions of information on each of these bottlings, and you're trying them. So I'll post the links to the YouTube comments, and then hopefully people will be able to.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that'd be good. And obviously, anyone that orders any bottles of the back of it, you'll get to see that code on the back, guys, and you can just follow that through. But some quite interesting notes coming through on this one. It seems quite exotic, which I guess I can get the Matthew's pointing out some mango there, maybe.
Yeah.
Orange citrus, Manzanini.
Yeah, there is a nice citrus note on it. I suppose, Ballymorgan, this is about 4 years old. Robert Millen is in County Wexford, which is in the southeast of Ireland. And I think the soil series for Robert is a Clonroach soil series. And when we were doing the terroir code, or the terroir study, Clonroach we found was a bit more fruity. It was fresh fruits was associated with Clonroach. And I think the elevation too is about 300 feet, which makes a bit of a difference as well. And down in Wexford, you're probably going to get 6 or 6.5 hours of sunlight, and I think this is an overture, a variety of grain.
Mm.
So just on the nose for me as well.
Is there treacle there on the nose, or like a caramel maybe?
There's a kind of it's for me. It's a bit of a mix between a dried herb and a kind of a I don't know what you call it, a toffee note as well. Just
that's it.
Yeah, a toffeed apple a little bit there as well.
Yeah, toffee apple, exactly what that's popped in my head.
Yeah.
I was getting pear.
Yeah, a little bit of fennel or fennel seed there as well. Just a little bit of for me, when I get that little bit of a pinch, I kind of say that's a bit of fennel. I think I describe that as.
Yeah, because fennel's quite a potent flavour.
Yeah.
Definitely a bit.
And again, I always get me custard note there somewhere, so I'm just going to have a taste of this cilantro. So I'm getting a clove and fudge there straight away, and you know when you go to the amusements or places like that, and I get a kind of a green apple, and it's coated in caramel or coated in fudge or toffee or something there.
Yeah.
It's actually there's a little bit of a peppery heat just at the end now as well. Which
I was
nice.
gonna say it's the spicy. It's it's very much like the Christmas spice. It's cinnamon, clove, star anise. That fennel hit coming in.
There's and
the apple, it's definitely there. Licorice, the apple is a really nice.
Yeah, it nearly comes in and cleans it a little bit, but it just the warmth and the little bit of spice just holds there, and again looking at the oils, it's really really good, just good oils, and this was a big bottling, so I think this was 30,000 bottles, and
wow.
Just the cask composition on this one is. I think it's 34% American force fill, 20% American virgin. So when I say American virgin, that's American oak, never used. And I think there's 23% French and 23% VDN. So just in terms of the cask,
it's good memory. It's amazing memory.
I'm checking the thing while he's saying it. I'm like, yeah.
Listen, it's like this. I think I've put together. It could be on about 30 bottles now. So these could be totally wrong. It could be totally wrong. But like the other thing with this is, most distilleries only use force fill. Well, I won't say force fill. They only use American ex-bourbon casks. So they could be first, second, third fill. They could be recharred casks. If a distillery wants to make savings, they will cut their wood budget. Our wood budget is about €1 million a year. It's our second highest bill after my wages. I jest. It's the second highest. It's the second highest bill after the barley. So one of the things Mark learned at Bruichladdich was don't skimp on the wood, and that's what they did at Bruichladdich. They didn't have money. They bought wood that was not, it did the job in that it held the spirit, and it did all the legal stuff, but it didn't contribute anything to the maturation. And I suppose this is one of the nuggets, that we can mention as one of the things that people say that 60 or 70 or 80% of your flavor of whiskey comes from the cask. I don't agree with that. Okay. What I say is, or what we say is, that 100% of the spirit is influenced by its time in the cask. Okay, so these casks have contributed to the whiskey. We buy French casks from vineyards like Chateau Margaux, Lafite, Mouton Rothschild, and we pay a lot of money for it, right? And people think we buy it because of the wine, and we don't. When we buy those casks, we actually bring them to Waterford, and we steam clean those at 100 degrees for about 3 minutes. were taking whatever wine was in there out. The reason we're buying those casks is because from those good chateaus is because they buy the best French casks out there. So they pay €1,000 for a cask. They will use it once or twice, and we will buy that. So we buy casks that have a lot of life left in them, and we're buying it for the wood and the properties in the wood and how it matures the spirit, okay? So we're not buying it for its previous occupants, we're buying it for the quality of the cask. I suppose the VDN is slightly different in that we're looking to buy old casks, and we are looking for some sweetness from that. But for the American or for the French cask, we're looking to get the spiciness, those tannins and from the wood itself. We're looking for the spirit to extract that. So when we fill a cask, we fill it at 71 or 72% alcohol. We don't break it down to 63.5 because, as Mark said, we're not paying to store water. We're paying to store spirit. But by having the higher spirit, we extract more from the wood. Okay, and we're not using the caramel E150, so we're using American virgin casks for color, and we're also using those sherry pour casks for color as well.
I was going to say, I mean, again, you saying it's 4 years old, that's just amazing. The color, the flavor, it's very impressive.
Yeah, like I suppose the thing about it is again 4 years old, but we're not, that's the age of it, but it stands up. Like when you smell this, when you smell it,
this is one that'll be good when you wait again, like you said. I think I remember actually a few conversations, a few tastings ago. Even Jas, business partner, he was saying the same. He loves the feeling of the next morning waking up, going back to his glass, and the smell and the flavors. And if there's even some in there, he might still go back in for another one. And it's very true. It's very true. I often go back to my glass, and the flavors you get is just amazing.
Yeah. So Ballymorgan and Hookhead were the two big releases. So 30,000 bottles worldwide. And when I'm just looking at this, I just like the oils that are on the glass. I don't know, can you see that now? What way? But for me, it's brilliant because when I taste it, like everyone is creamy. Everyone is kind of unctuous, but in a different way. This has spice, but citrus and lemon sherbet and lots of things going on, like, what I mean, that that you don't necessarily get in the first or the second taste. There's something else there now. It's gone really mouth-watering. It's kind of a melony or pineapple-y kind of note there as well. So
there's definitely tropicalness in this one.
Yeah.
I think lots of people get some other tasting notes as well. I think lots of people just think like childhood desserts, just all of these. I think that's maybe the Waterford style as well. It just makes you think of delicious childhood desserts. And then
well, sure, listen. You could be Steph. You could have hit on the nail on the head. But I can tell you, a couple of the releases, maybe coming out will be spice. They'll be okay if these are childhood desserts. One or two of the releases that are coming out are going to be definitely early 20s disco, have the fun, and it's not childhood.
Interesting. Looking forward to those.
So will we move on to the next one?
Yeah. So let me get the scrolling bar. So it's bottle 3, guys.
So into Grattensbrick, right?
Yes.
Yes, I believe that's right. Hang on. I'm just trying to find my scroll bar here.
So I did try to post the links to the pages where the Terroir goes take you, but YouTube seems to be deleting them. I'm maybe not allowed to post links. So
if you can put them in an email to me, I will forward them to all the addresses for everyone.
Love it.
Maybe you're on their block list, Jeff.
I think I've obviously posted some dodgy links in my past.
He knows what you put up before now. No.
So this is
Grattonsbrook, do you want to talk about this a little bit, Steph? This is one of your babies. This is a UK exclusive.
Yes, this is our UK exclusive. So the great thing, obviously, with Waterford, doing every farm individually and having so many of them, is that then that also gives them Ned the freedom to make incredible cuvées and layer them together. But also then, certain demanding markets like us can say, hey, we want a farm that no one else has.
I'm just going to cut across you there, Steph, and say we only help our nicest friends out.
Thank you. Just because we're close by and they're worried we're going to come and we'll come and get it otherwise. So we got Grattonsbrook earlier this year. It was launched. So just the 1.1, it's the first harvest from Grattonsbrook and the first release from them. And it's I love this one actually, and I'm potentially biased because obviously it's our one, and so I keep joking with my colleagues because we all want to come and visit Waterford whenever we're allowed to, and then we're like, and we want to come to Grattonsbrook Farm, and then someone's like, we'll put a flag up, and I'm like, oh, hold on with the colonial kind of vibes, guys. Let's not go back to that.
You were over last February, Steph, weren't you?
Yeah, just the last place I went before.
Yeah, February 2019, we had all our friends over from the different markets, and I think he actually closed everything down after that. We actually went back to my tasting room after an evening in the restaurant, and we had an eventful. We had a blend off.
Yes, we did. So we'd been drinking in the bars in Waterford, and then they all closed. And then Ned was like, "I know somewhere we can get more booze." And it turns out it's his special room where he has all the stuff.
So we had a blend off,
wonderful,
quite interesting.
Yes, it was. There's some people, some big whiskey cheeses trying to make their own blends.
Oh yeah,
some of them were very.
I was glad I stood back and I left the matter. And in fairness, I was watching to see, and there was a few eager people, and they had to go, and there was a few people standing back and saying, no, I'm not getting involved in this. And
it wasn't I'll just drink it, thank you.
it wasn't quite crash and burn, but I think there was one or two people who were a little bit disappointed with what they came with. But I suppose it just went to show, Steph, too, the balance of trying to bring the casks together too. Like the thing about it is, you may, I suppose, single casks. Lots of people love single casks, right? So when we get all our casks together, there'll be casks that are, in American terms, honey casks or whatever, But to put those casks with other casks, they may not do the dance. They may not like each other. So trying to get the balance together in harmony is the hard part. So if you have a cask that's, you think is really nice, it may not work with any of the rest of the casks.
Yeah, it might not play nice.
That's the difficulty.
And I know your title is head distiller in that, but I think, you putting all these casks together, it's almost like, I find that, no offense, but distilling, I think, is quite often, you've got your sort of this is how it's going to run. I taste, you work out when to make your cuts and everything's running fine, but the blending of the casks together, that is much more there's a guidebook kind of thing.
So this has taken up 80% of the time, to be honest with you, because in fairness, we have a great distilling team. We have a great production team. Neil is the head brewer. He, I think, has the hardest job in the distillery, because each farm coming in has to be brewed individually, and there's a lot of work going into that. So I think he nearly has the hardest job. But we have a great distilling team. They know exactly what to do. I just come in every so often and check, or if there's an issue. But Neil and the distillers they do a great job. But this has taken up the majority of my time now, which I didn't even know I was going to be doing this. Mark just said, "Sure, go ahead, you'd be grand."
Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh, thanks."
Oh yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Sure. So just to talk about Grattonsbrook, this is 2015 harvest, and it's been aged for 3 years, 10 months, and 6 days. I've got the thing right in front of me. Don't worry.
This is really up my street. This is gorgeous.
Well, like I say, I'm very biased because I'm going to say my baby. If the farmers are like, "This is my whiskey," I'm like, "This is our baby."
This is lovely.
But this is very much
a lot sweeter as well.
Yeah, north
so-
of Waterford,
Yeah.
and it's
So,
in County Kildare.
Andrew Bergen is the farmer's name, and he was in 2016. We distilled 31 farms, and Andrew was the 31st farm we distilled, and we did it in December. And he's a lovely guy. He probably didn't grow for us for a couple of years after that, for one reason or another. But he's hugely engaging farmer, really into looking after the soil, really into soil husbandry, and this is I think is this Taberna variety, Steph?
Let me just scroll down and double check.
I think it's Taberna, which was Andrew.
Yes, you're right, 100% right. And 131 hours fermentation.
Okay, so another long fermentation. So did someone say marzipan?
Yeah, we've got Shane.
Yeah,
right in there.
Raisins
as well.
Rolled barley. There's mint in here for me on the nose. And I get a green foliage, forest undergrowth after a bit of rain. And there's a
Which
fresh
we've had
soil.
today in London.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
You've had rain, have you?
Pissing it down all day.
Yeah.
We've had sunshine, unbelievable. I have no sympathy for you.
We had it yesterday.
We had a good
Right.
week. Yeah, we had a good week.
Yeah. We've done it.
I get those kind of with the raisin. I don't know if it's the raisin or like the little fig biscuits used to have. They're wrapped in like a buttery pastry and it's fig or raisin in the middle.
Fig roll.
Yeah, fig roll. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So weird. I spent half the afternoon talking about biscuits to a French colleague who's never had any of the British biscuits, and then I was trying to give her tasting notes for some biscuits, and she didn't know any of them. I sent her off with 10 packs of biscuits. I was like, this is
yeah. For me as well, there's a kind of a green tea and a fresh soil kind of a mix going on.
There's an earthiness to it, definitely. Yeah.
There's a huge earthiness to it, and
there's kind of a sherbety kind of action as well. I think.
Yeah,
there's a definite zing too.
Yeah, there's not
side of it. Yeah.
I don't think there's kind of a citrus zest to it, but there's kind of nearly like a rum raisin ice cream note to it on the nose. Like you can nearly even smell the cream of it.
The lemon on the nose is more apparent. On the palate, it's definitely more the orange raisin.
Oh.
Paddy's got a bit of mint there as well.
Yeah, it's a beast, this one.
Yeah, so like I can definitely, on the nose, I can definitely smell the mint. But yes, there's a spiciness there, and there's the lemon and orange zest, and there's a lemon sherbet, and there's a banana note there now as well. It's like if anyone was in the Girl Guides or the Cubs, if you ever was at the bonfire, did you ever put a banana in tinfoil?
Mm-hmm.
And cook it like that. That it just has that kind of a memory for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not quite a burnt banana, but it's that kind of on a charcoal fire nearly.
Yeah, there's definitely a
far away
distant
nose
fire.
Banana.
Yeah.
It's a beaut.
It's more banana sweet for me. It's the banana soft sweet, the penny sweet for me actually.
Flumps.
Yeah.
Banana flumps.
I don't know if it's because there's a nice sweetness in it as well.
So if anyone follows Serge's reviews, this one knocked his socks off. The poor man gave a review like I've never seen before on Whiskey Fun. So if anyone follows his reviews, he was quite gushing about this one, wasn't he?
Yeah, I suppose it's interesting when someone gives it a good review because, Serge seemingly is, the top review guy, and he can't be bought or he can't be influenced. So when Mark Rainier sends me a note to say, "Well done, man," he's happy, But like what I'd see is, a slap in the back is only 6 inches from a kick in the arse, and while it's great to get the good reviews and the whole lot. What I like doing is making whiskey that makes people smile and brings them to a memory. There's nothing like there's nothing I like better than seeing, like, I can see Steph really likes this one, right?
Yeah.
And you'd really like it because this is not your childhood dessert. No, this is going to the disco when you were 21, or this is going to the disco when you were 17 and you shouldn't be going. You know what I mean? And you're getting into the club and you're having a great night. Like, you know, this is what this is a little bit like. So that's what it kind of reminds me of, like, you know.
Yeah, it's got a bit more. It's cheekier, definitely.
Yeah,
I think.
it's cheekier.
That's, if that's a thing that I can, make. But it's
You know,
definitely
it
got a little
is,
bit of
like,
a twinkle in its eye.
Yeah. So you have the page here. Is it 35%, 16%?
Yes.
35%,
16, 24, 25.
24, 25, is it?
Yeah. So good.
It's very. I can see this being quite a dangerous one though. This is very gluggable. This is the one where the bottle wouldn't last long, I think.
Well, that's okay because the UK has all the bottles. And
how many bottles, Steph? Is there 12,000?
Yeah, I think there was 12,000. So I think we took half of it, and already, and then
I think there's
it's
only
selling
4
really
left.
well.
So
yeah,
people buy quickly.
It's selling really well. So,
12,000 is still quite low, though, isn't it? Really, if you think, it's a drop in the ocean when you think globally.
Yeah,
I mean, is that 12,000 for UK market only, or is that?
This is UK exclusive.
Yeah. So we did market exclusives for UK, France, Holland.
Oh wow!
Belgium. I think we have one going to China.
Sweden. Was there not one for Sweden as well?
Sweden are getting organic 1.2.
Yeah, because they get System Jet.
Yeah, so they're getting 1.2 organic. Yeah. So it's not every market are getting market exclusives, but obviously the UK, our nearest neighbour. Well, you did leave Brexit. We wouldn't hold that against you.
It wasn't our choice. It wasn't our choice.
No. Well, sure, listen.
Not as Londoners.
Yeah. But like, this is definitely not a child reminding drink. This is, hey, I'm grown up now and I'm going out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a stunning one. So thank you for giving us that one, Ned. You created this one for us with us in mind.
Yeah, well, I suppose after meeting some of you, I said this is right up your alley.
Oh no, it's all based on that night drinking back in the distillery. All right, well, it's fantastic. Thank you. So we should move along to the next one then, just to make sure we don't keep everyone.
Yeah. This is
both Ned and myself are able to talk for hours on everything.
Hookhead.
So we've got Hookhead now.
Yeah.
And I love this because I think hopefully people are getting that there's differences between these whiskies, and this is coming from the barley growing from different farms, which is the effect of terroir. And if people don't really understand, it's a French word that there is no translation in English, unfortunately, but it means the conditions that the barley grows in, which gives it its flavor and all its properties. And I think the thing that some people might be like, okay, these are all delicious whiskies, but really, when you start getting a coastal barley, for me, this is when things really escalate the differences. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Terroir, you summed it up perfectly. It's the influence on the plant, on the barley. So it's where it's from, its topography. So we have fields that are not flat in Ireland and stuff. So we'll have a field that will undulate. So at the bottom of that field, even just that field, you'll have different terroirs because water will stay there. So that soil will be heavier. This is, if anyone gets a chance, can you put up the terroir code for that on because this is the most idyllic place for getting a whiskey. It's Hookhead. It's down in the southeast of Ireland. It is it's just a fantastic spot. Martin Foley is the farmer. He's a character. Again, this was a global release. And this is just over 3.5 years old as well, I think. So Hookhead is down in the absolute southeast of Ireland, and it's right beside the Hook House
I follow the lighthouse on Twitter, which seems like a weird thing to do, but I do, and it's lovely. I just posted the link into the host chat, by the way. Just
perfect. So if
able to share it from there
on the Terroir page, you can go to the map. You can see the field is right beside the lighthouse. Martin Foley, as I said, and this again is a Nelton soil series, and I think this is Proprino, I think, variety. So this actually this was entered in. Correct. Yeah, this was entered in the San Francisco Whiskey Awards, and even though it's 3 years and 8 months old, it had the honor of winning a double gold at the San Francisco Whiskey Awards. It won Best Irish Single Malt and Best Irish Whiskey, which was mind blowing, to say the least. Yeah, so they obviously liked it as well. So, yeah.
That is a first-time distilling job. I feel like you're doing all right, are
you? Someone said to me, which is the best whiskey? And I've probably said it to you before, Steph, the next whiskey is going to be the best one. So, yeah, listen, I suppose I was lucky enough. Mark gave me the job because he wanted someone who hadn't been in the whiskey industry and who had fresh eyes and, would just create whatever we wanted to do. So, I was lucky enough. Now, he did say, I'll give you 6 months. If you fuck it up, you're gone.
Which with whiskey is not a long time. You can't taste very much after 6 months.
I'm not paraphrasing.
Yes. No, I bet. But you'd have been like, but after 6 months, it might still taste it. We'll just taste,
Yeah, no, I suppose. Yeah, listen, it was, he gave me the opportunity, which was humbling, but, a bit daunting terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
But he gives you, he gives you free rein, now he will, pull you in now and again if he thinks that you have to, but he gives you free rein and he says, all I want is the best quality. So it's up to you to get the best quality spirit from each farm and put it into the best casks we can get and give it the best opportunity to be the best whiskey we can make it. And it's as simple as that.
It's all on you then, basically.
No. In fairness, it's all we have a great team, but it's as simple as that. We have a great maintenance team. We don't have a lot of downtime. In the first year, we lost about 3 hours downtime. In the whole year, which is amazing for a startup. We have great facilities. Paul and Anthony do a great job looking after everything like that. We have good crack. Steph has seen it. We do have good crack. We don't take ourselves too serious. We can say, more or less what we want. Mark is not going to say, you can't say this, don't say that. Just be honest, be yourself.
Mm.
So
I think that shines through there as well. I think
listen, it is we're having fun, and we hope the whiskey is a bit of fun.
So this one's still quite sweet on the nose, but I can see it's definitely like a coastal, and again, it's that earthiness. Now I haven't got much of this. There's not much citrus or
but just
kind of apple pie kind of thing. That still seems to have gone.
Just on the coastal thing though as well, and some people think that the sea breeze is affecting the flavor, and it's actually not, right? It's getting the minerality from the soil. So we have, for me, this has definite salinity. There's definitely salt in it, right? Yeah. But it's coming from the soil. So what would have happened over the years probably is land would have been reclaimed, and the farmers would have used seaweed, and they would have used soils like that to put in the field to build it up. So that's what we're getting here. So most people think, the sea breeze is going to affect the barley, and it's actually not. It's what's in the ground.
What's in the ground?
Because there's a couple of farms up in the Midlands where there is a salinity coming through in the spirit again, and it's because it has that minerality in the ground. And now the fact that it is on the coast, a lot of the soil is going to be affected by it. As I said, fields would have been reclaimed over hundreds of years, over thousands of years, glaciers, movement and everything. So you're going to get it in the soil. It's inevitable you're going to get it in the soil, So just on the nose for this. Sorry,
it's like
Steph,
when
go
you've
ahead.
seasoned something really well, you know, because you taste food, you're cooking food, food's delicious, you've used some great
Yeah.
ingredients, and then you're like, oh, salt. I usually am too late.
Yeah.
And then just the way that everything tastes more, though. You don't taste the salt itself, but you taste everything tastes more, and there's a thicker texture to it. And I think that's the thing that really, really comes through with these.
The palate's more different for me than it is on the nose. I mean, straight away, it's like honey, apricots. Then it's more sweetness. I maybe get a touch of salt, but not like as much as I get on the nose.
Yeah.
And things like cloves as well, maybe.
Just elevates everything, though.
Yeah.
Just on the nose for me, like there's an earthy maltiness. There is a like you're in a field having a drink in a field. You can smell it and there's a kind of a bread crust or kind of even a fresh croissant nose to it as well, like.
So this is you're exactly describing what we class as the breakfast whiskey. This is one you'd have when you wake up.
Yeah, but actually, when you taste it, for me, there's a spiciness. There's a spice that hits there.
Yeah,
and it's just there, and it sits on the tongue, and it's clove, and it's white pepper, and it's gingery, a bit of chili chocolate, and then there's a bit of salty caramel coming in.
Ginger, that's it, definitely.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of licorice at the end. It's just the nose doesn't match the taste, which I love.
It doesn't.
You know, you're expecting one thing, and you get something a little bit different, and you're kind of going, "Is this the same thing I'm smelling and tasting?" Like, you know.
Yeah.
And I think for this one, I went heavy on the first fill. I went 45 or 6%. And probably 20%, 21% American Virgin, and then 15 or 16% French and French Premium. So I went heavy on the American.
22, 15, 17.
Yeah.
Smashed it.
So went heavy on the American. Went heavy on the American, because I know that if you look at some of these casks, Steph, you have the page there, have you?
Yeah.
If you look at some of the casks, so some of the VDN casks are going to be Marsal, I think.
Yeah.
They're up around the 5,000s. There are a couple of sherry casks there, I think. And there's a couple of Margaux casks. So those casks that are in that are big casks. They are, apart from size, there might be one or two 500-litre casks. They were big casks. They were, you know, they gave everything of themselves to the whiskey. You know, so that's why I didn't use a hell of a lot of percentage-wise of that. And the American then, so for me, that white pepperiness, I associate that with American with American First Fill and American Virgin. That white pepper note, I kind of would give to that, like, you know.
Yeah, and that lingers lovely as well. It's a really nice spice that lingers. Actually, that's what stays with you.
So this one is just, it starts off as a little bit of a spice, and then it comes in and goes bam, and it just rolls all the way through. And then it's a bit like it's a bit like when you're on a heart monitor and you're going like that, and there's a jump and there's another jump. That's the way I kind of feel it when I'm tasting it. There's something, it's nice, and there's a nice spice there, and then there's something else comes in, and you're kind of going, what is that? It's not quite gingery. It's nearly, you know, not quite five spice, but there's something different there. And then there's that salty popcorn.
I think you said chili chocolate. Chili chocolate
as
really,
well,
for me, just so.
And
in
it's
fact, this is
good
one that we
quality
have some dark chocolate with, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're going out and you're having a good 97% chocolate, you know, you could have this with it. What are you eating?
He's straight in. He's got some chocolate. Yeah. He's like, right.
I had one of our regulars gave us a lot of chocolate to say thank you for a tasting, and I've still got some left. Al, if you're watching, I've still got. This is the 85%, so I'm going to have some of that.
That sounds like it's going to be perfect.
This is one that I would have some chocolate with.
No, and actually, just we're going to have a micro cuvee coming out, what I'm not allowed to talk about, but I think it will be something that will go great with a charcuterie board and really good cheese. It's marrying at the moment. It's only going to be a couple of thousand bottles, and I'm convinced it's going to be a summer cheese charcuterie board
Oh my goodness!
accompaniment.
Can't
There's
believe
so
you're
many
leaking
people
this.
that don't know about cheese and whiskey. They miss out completely.
I do a lot of cheese and charcuterie
Yeah.
tastings with whiskey, and I
Cheese and
love them
whiskey
all.
is
And yes, this
is the one.
yeah. This sounds
think,
amazing.
I think it's something which I'm not allowed to talk about, and I probably get in trouble for even mentioning it. But it's going to be coming out with in the summer, hopefully.
So long as we don't tell anyone, all right? Everyone here.
Yeah. And actually, we should mention the cuvee again, and have people seen the label for the cuvee?
I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is. I don't know. Have people seen it? But there's an artist in Dublin that we got involved. Leah Houston. She's amazing, and she came down last year, and we went through the whole process. We went out to Ballygarn to have a look at the casks. We came back and we had a nice tasting, as you do, and we talked through the whole lot. And she had been talking to Mark Rainier. She talked to the guys who are involved in designing the bottles through Output, and she was basically told, go and design a label, and she did. And it's different, it's funky, it's brilliant, I think, so I was up there a couple of weeks ago with her to, we were doing a little film on it, and she took me through the process of doing it. I brought up some of the components of the cuvee, and we had a great day. So we were drinking and tasting and going through how she came up with the concept and everything, and it was a brilliant day.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
is there a video on the website? Because I know there's an article in Whiskey Magazine about it.
There's no video yet, because we are going to, when we're going to bottle, she's going to come down and we're going to have another drink. We're going to drink the finished product, and we're going to discuss, the label and the whiskey and the whole lot. And then when we do have the release, hopefully we'll have it up on the Terroir page, Terroir code of that. But if anyone gets to have a look at it, it's called Binary Assimilation is the name of the piece. And it's actually a piece of art which is going to come down to the distillery and stay with us. But it's oh, wow. She's a brilliant person. She's into whiskey, which helps. And it's just totally different stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, it's brilliant. I'm super excited by it, and I love that kind of because quite a lot of whiskies look quite the same, and obviously Waterford with the bottle firstly looks super different, and then this is really brilliant.
I think it'll go well with the bottle.
Yeah. So I still can't share links to YouTube, but what I'll do is I'll type in the words I googled to find the article, and then you can all do your own googling.
I don't know why my comments from the actual B Live actually aren't going out anymore, so that's why I'm having to post from my phone for some reason.
Okay.
If you just forward them to me, and I'll forward everyone an email. That'd be great.
All right, perfect. No worries.
What I don't know how we're fixed for time. Is it? Geez, we're an hour and a half.
We should probably gently
we've got the last one to do.
The last one.
I'm okay for time. The kids haven't annoyed me yet. They're obviously having sweets and chocolate and stuff and watching Netflix.
They're happy then. They're happy. They're good to go.
Yeah. But just I just touch on the Terroir project that we did, Steph. And so one of the things Mark wanted to do is he wanted to do a project in where we studied terroir, because we are in the fortunate position we can taste the different new makes every time. So in the first year and a half, we did everything as repeatedly as possible. We malted, we brewed, we distilled, more or less the same as possible, just to get all that information and get that new make spirit. After that, then we looked at the individual farm and processing it in a way that was best for that farm. Okay, so there was a bit of first we wanted to just do everything the same. And we went from there. So Mark came across a guy called Dr. Dustin Herb in Oregon State University, and he had done a paper on terroir in beer in Oregon. So Mark was interested in this guy, made contact with Dustin, and said, listen, you know, I believe in terroir. I've believed it since he was in his wine days, and I believe it now. But some people want a piece of paper to wave to say, terroir exists. Now, here you go. So Dustin got involved, and we also got involved with Terroir and Thompson, who are in Scotland, who do all the independent sensory analysis, and also got involved with Teagasc, which is the Department of Agriculture here in Ireland. So they're a research body. So it's a project that's been ongoing now. Probably we're going into our 4th year. So it was 3 years to get to the first stage. And what Dustin and Teagasc wanted to do was do a peer review paper. So as much as we wanted to say, you know, we needed to say this, Dustin and the Teagasc wanted to do a peer review paper so that, you know, they wanted to put their names to it. They wanted to get the kudos for doing it, and to put it in a journal where their peers would review it and ask them a lot of questions. And, you know, that's the best way to stand over it. So that's what we did. We spent 3 years doing it. And so there was micro maltings, there was micro brewing and micro distillation, none of which we were involved in. It was all done by Teagasc and by Terroir and Thompson, all done the exact same way, okay? So then it went to 3 tasting panels, and we were part of that, and we did tastings on it. It went into GC machines, which is gas chromatography machines, which is worth a fortune and breaks down molecules and the whole lot, way above my head. And it came out that, you know, terroir exists. Yay. But one of the things that we did discover is that we used 2 different sites, and we used 2 different varieties. And one of the things that we were surprised at is that the varieties had a lot less of an impact on flavor than we expected. And the main reason was because a lot of the varieties are related. They're actually brothers and sisters, or kissing cousins, if you can say that, right? So they have very similar lineage. So if you look at Irene or Propino or Taberna, they have a familial link along the way. So that was quite interesting to us and to Mark. So what we're starting to look at now is heritage varieties. So we kind of saw this back maybe 3 years ago. So we started looking at varieties before there was crossing, or you know, so you get 2 varieties and you cross them to get a better variety that'll give you a more tonnage, or will stand to more pesticides for agricultural necessity. Well, so we wanted to look at flavors. So we went back to a variety called Hunter in 1956. And that was the first heritage grain that we did. And the next year, then we went back to Goldthorpe from, I think it was 1901. And we looked at that. And now we're going back to an old Irish variety, which is pre-1900. And so this is hardship, okay? So in Ireland, every seed that was used is in a seed bank. So you can go and you can get something like 25 grams. But you have to start growing up that then. So you have to get to 25 grams and grow it and grow it and grow it until you can sow enough in the ground to harvest that, to sow enough in the ground the following year to get enough grain to distill it. So it's a lot of money and a lot of time, but the flavors are so different. They're so different. It's unreal because, you know, as I said, they're from a different generation. They're from a different time. Like when the farmer puts down the soil, we have a guy who does it for mince malt, and it's hardship. Like we would get maybe 3 or 3.5, or farmer, sorry, would get 3 or 3.5 tons to the acre on conventional barley. Organic, you might get 2 tons, maybe a little bit more.
Wow.
And depending on biodynamic, which we haven't talked about yet, they might get 1.5 tons. With some of these heritage varieties, you're talking about 0.8 of a ton to the acre. Like it's just complete hardship, but flavors is great.
I'm super excited about it because I think quite a lot of whiskey in more recent history definitely sort of since the say sort of 60s, 70s, 80s, it's been focused on yield, and if flavour gets chucked out the window alongside that, then fine, let's just get as much alcohol as we can from the barley, from the malting and fermentation. So it's it's going to be super exciting to see this. And I think what you were saying when we were visiting, like, some of these old varieties might never have been distilled, but also some of them might have been distilled and tasted a bit weird and potentially might have been ditched for that in the old days because the technology of distillation of making whiskey wasn't quite as good. Whereas now you guys have such a high-tech distillery and such skill, everyone in the team, of making sure they can tweak everything to suit that exact specific barley. It's going to be so exciting.
The ability,
to really make the most of it.
Yeah, the thing about it is, like, when you look at agriculture and distilling and all industries, it is about the bottom line. It is about commercial. We want to get the most out of this barley. We want to get the best price. We want to get the most out of this grain in spirit terms. We're looking for the yield. And when Mark came in, he said, "I don't care about yield." Now us as professionals in the industry, we want to do it as good as we can. But like, we are not under pressure to hit a certain target. We're not under pressure to say we need to get this out of the spirit. Now, as I said, professionally, we want to do the best, but it's about quality. Yeah. So it's about getting that 1901 Goldthorpe and getting the best flavour out of that. Now, it might be totally different flavour, but it's the best flavour out of that. And it's to see how that goes then in the cask and what kind of whiskey that is. That is a snapshot in time of that grain and what we can do with it now.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. And there's no other way to taste whiskies made from that grain. There's just...
No, yeah.
Not a thing. But, I mean, that links us beautifully to organic. And, obviously we've tasted 4 farms here, all of which are, let's say, farming in a kind of more modern modern way.
This is organic. Last one, yeah.
Guys,
I just have to mute. I just have to mute myself for a minute because I'm battery's running low and I've just shouted someone to bring me up the.
No worries. So these guys have grown this barley entirely organically. It is certified by the Irish Organic Association. But it's, everyone, just to make it clear, it's it's organic barley, sorry, not an organic whiskey overall. So the casks and things haven't been, they're not organic. So just in case anyone's confused there, this is all, again, like Waterford, focusing on the barley entirely. So I think, I know with food, I'm expecting, if I buy organic food, strawberries, for example, versus unorganic strawberries, I'm expecting them to be more expensive, but I'm expecting them to have more flavour and taste more strawberry-ish, right? So
that's what you hope.
So I think also with these organic farmers, they also get smaller yield. Like you were just saying, it's 2.5 tons per acre, right? Something like
so like, depending on I suppose, what kind of a year it is. Like, it could be anywhere from 2 tons. It could be anything from 2 tons to 2.5 tons to the acre. Like, so it's very different. Like, and yeah, you're right, Steph. It tastes more of the earth.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And I think,
and the other,
the other thing, I'll just let you get plugged in.
I'm just going to plug.
Yeah, no worries, Han. The other thing that happens, I think, with organic farming is, to turn a field into an organic field, you have to wipe away all the historic pesticides, wipe away all the historic non-organic stuff that you have been using to be able to then have your fields sort of certified as organic. So for Waterford, finding farmers that had organic fields that were then also keen on growing barley in those organic fields was quite a hard job. And so this one, actually, this evening, is the only one that's not from a single farm, because there was no one organic farmer in Ireland able to supply Waterford with enough quantity of organic barley for making a single farm origin here. So this is actually 6 farms together. Okay, so again, when we send out the links, I'll be able to sort of show you where, but they're all sort of north around the distillery.
Is that where the name came from, the Gaia?
Exactly. So they couldn't call it after the farm. So it's named after, it's an ancient goddess of kind of the earth, essentially. And, Mother Earth type of thing. So that's kind of why they called it Gaia. And there will be, more continuing kind of in the Gaia range. So this is a 2015 harvest. And this one's been aged for 3 years, 9 months and 20 days. So of course here, it's not talking about the specific terroir on a farm, as in this is the altitude, this is the hours of sunlight, this is the soil variety, but the fact that organic growing means you have a much more active soil. You have, like I say, with the strawberries, you're expecting the barley to be more flavoursome because of it being grown organically. Obviously, you have to look after the health of it very strongly, because you can't just spray it with stuff if it gets a wee pest or a wee bit of problems. So this is Ireland's first organic barley whiskey, and it's pretty amazing. I just think it's so unusual. Again, we've talked about.
It's funny you mentioned this, the strawberries at the beginning, because it's not quite strawberry, but there's red fruits or something. There's honey.
Definitely red fruits. Absolutely.
There's honey and red fruits. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think yeah, but there's also kind of like a. Is it kind of rose petals? Kind of, there's definitely a kind of reddish hint to it. I think I get the figs again that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Cherries as well might be another red fruit that people might be getting.
Cherries.
So there is, so quite a lot of flavors coming through here, but just more again. And we obviously went through a couple of single farm origins. Then I talked about saltiness and how that enhances flavors. And this is another way. There's no coastal kind of action happening here.
No.
But it's the organic kind of, that's the difference.
For something you say is organic, you would expect earthiness, but there's nothing. I can't get any earthiness like I did from what was it, the Hookhead and the Grattensbrook. Yeah,
it's not. It's much more the spiciness, the fruitiness comes through a lot more. And then that salted caramel kind of thing comes through a lot more as well. And I think the closest for me flavor to earthiness is like a freshly cut hay. I guess if that's if you've worked in I used to work in a horse riding stables, so hay and straw, nice fresh hay and straw. That's kind of for me the closest to earthiness this is getting. But loads more flavor, and again, it's hard to define. And the organicness, how is that contributing to it? It's all a really interesting question, but it's kind of answering the question. Does it make a difference? And it does. And obviously, with Waterford, they're kind of carrying on to try and make sure that all those reasons are explored. And
there's a really nice spice on the palate on that one.
Yeah,
a little bit more than the others, I think.
Yes, it's definitely got a little bit more.
The flavors are quite mellow. Like there's orange there, but it's not as apparent as the other ones.
For me, the first sip of this one after the other ones, it sort of definitely goes up into the roof and sort of says hello in a different way than the others, and then kind of calms down and rolls around and just waves of flavour coming at you.
Is there mint in there? Am I getting mint? Or is that just...
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely, like, good. When it's particularly because, these whiskies all focus on the flavour of barley, and the flavour of barley is quite herbaceous. So, yeah, you should definitely... lots and lots.
I think Al's right. This is definitely a sweet one. This is again up my alley, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Easy. So we've got Sarah saying creamy honey, red fruit. Anthony saying green apple, and Al saying sweet. Yeah, so it's lots and lots of. Oh, Matt as well saying honey as well. So lots and lots of flavors here, and I think with Waterford being able to carry on this kind of experimentation of using different types, barley grown in different types of fields. So like Ned quickly mentioned, I'm not sure if anyone's heard of biodynamic. You might have if you're in the wine world. But growing your barley, farming according to kind of ancient ways of thing, so farmer being like, okay, well, the moon's just done this and we know it's after the first frost, so this is when I will do this to my fields. And using rather than a calendar, using sort of different ancient pagan, I don't know, kind of things to decide on when you're going to do everything about your field. But again, it's also keeping your soil active like the organic farmers do. They can't spray their field, so their soil, they can't add fertilizer, so the soil needs to make sure it's rich, delicious soil that's got everything the barley grain needs, because you can't just chuck on an additive later on. So, if you kind of look after your soil by making sure you dig in plenty of, whatever it is you need to dig in, and also planting kind of cover crops in the winter to make sure all your nutrients don't run off, and fixing nitrogen into the soil. So there's lots and lots of things that these farmers are doing to take care of the soil and make the soil much more natural, really, rather than just using it over and over again and making the soil kind of dead and just chucking in some extra fertilizers later. So with Waterford have got their first biodynamic coming out later in the year as well. So there'll be second Gaia 2.1 coming out in October, and then the first biodynamic whiskey will be joining it also in October. So super exciting, because again, I can't imagine how that's going to taste, if it's going to taste different. I'm assuming it is going to taste different, but how? What is that giving to it? And then obviously with the heritage varieties of grain coming later. So just, an amazing distillery. And I think, we mustn't make the sort of mistake of thinking
Ned. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, is he back? Oh, amazing. Hopefully he's all plugged in and okay. But, this is quite a big distillery with very, very modern equipment. And because of that, that's why they're able to focus on these other things. They're able to keep each farm separate and make sure they extract the maximum amount of flavor from every single grain to make sure that we're tasting as many differences as possible. So it's
you can envisage that even in the packaging as well. Again, it's very smart. You can tell that it's a very modern take.
Yeah.
And
if anyone's really interested, their website is one of the best things ever. Not only has it got the terroir codes that we've been talking about, so you can find out every single tiny cask that was in there and every single bit of information, but if you just look on the general website before typing in any terroir codes, there's videos on everything. And they've got, Waterford have actually hired an agronomist, someone who looks after the farmers while they're growing the barley, to make sure that they're harvesting at the right time, to talk to them about whether they want to add, or when they want to add any fertilizer or anything when they're planting. She's called Grace. She's their agronomist, and she's out there in the fields with the farmers, getting to know the barley before it goes to be malted, before it goes to be made into whiskey. So it's it's pretty amazing.
Bring him back in. Where's he gone? You're there, but you've let me. No, I can't click you to show you in. If you exit and then re-enter again, so you come in the bottom.
So if you're interested about getting to know more of Waterford, like I say, both Ned or myself, or we could probably add another 6 to 8 hours onto this, and still be telling you quite spectacular things. So have a look at their website and look at all the different stages. There's lots and lots of videos on the website that will give you lots more information. So just in case, and if anyone's got any questions just to finish off, then feel free to type them in the chat.
Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, put that in there. I'm just I can't get him back in for some reason. Let me see if he joins back again.
Okay.
I've asked him to come back in if he can. Oddly. But if anyone's got any questions, guys, put them in the comments just before obviously we finish up. I know obviously we ran a little bit over time today, but we had a lot of good whiskey to get through, put it that way.
Yeah. And if anyone's got any favourites as well, let us know. Have your favourites number 1 to 5. If you can remember the names, or just put 1 to 5, it's fine. Yeah.
It's not letting me bring Ned in. He's here. I can see you, Ned, in the bottom, but for some reason not letting me bring you in.
So just another couple of last little points, then I'll just keep talking until he comes back. But,
I don't think it's you, Ned. I think it's actually the my end. The BLive system's not bringing you in, so I might have to actually.
You need me to jump off?
Leave you out there. No, it's not that. It's not that.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So just something else about Waterford. I think, not sure many anyone's noticed from the bottles, if anyone's seen the bottles on the website, but there's no E. So I know obviously you guys are doing this Irish whiskey focus this evening. Just to finish off kind of how we started almost is obviously quite often with Irish whiskies, they are putting the E in, which traditionally was to differentiate them between that sort of pesky Scotch stuff. But Waterford, obviously, because partly because of their history with Mark Rainier coming from running distilleries in Scotland, also partly because they're double distilling, and also partly because they're not adding any caramel colouring, so it's E150, so the E Waterford are leaving out the E, so just spelling whiskey like Scotland does.
Wow.
And obviously it's a single malt, so they're not doing kind of Irish pot stills or blends or anything else.
I've actually just noticed that myself.
Yeah. So I know, it's there's no rules about it. It's fine. And I think a lot of people, Irish whiskey is such an amazing category right now. Particularly, I love exploring Irish pot still as well. But there were a few single malts, not as many as Scotland. But then having Waterford come in and be like, no, we're going to do it like this, and focus on the terroir aspects, rather than trying to make an Irish pot still is super interesting. So we've got some favourites coming through. Oh, Grattensbrook. That's good. And Sarah saying she likes the Gaia. Number 2, which was Ballymorgan.
So I think it's my
43521.
My laptop's frozen, I think, because I'm not even seeing the chats on here. I'm looking on my phone now.
Oh dear. I've got it.
We're still going anyway, so hopefully it won't cut the stream.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So yeah, lots of people liking Grattensbrook, which is great. Thank you. I feel like I can take credit for it. I can't at all. And yeah, Lakefield as well. That one at the start, I think a lot of people forgetting the delicious way to start, and I think that's such a great starter to a tasting Lakefield. And hopefully everyone picks out the differences as well, because of course, that is part of the point, just this farm versus this farm here versus this farm here. How much difference does it make? So yeah, it's a really exciting distillery. I think we're looking forward to seeing what comes out next, particularly with the cuvee coming later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, the whiskies have been absolutely amazing. I'm just going to try and, because we are live, but I'm going to try and come out of this because it will then switch to you as a host anyway, and then come back in just so I can see if I can bring Ned in to say goodbye.
Yeah, no worries.
And hopefully we won't cut off to the public, but we'll see. Hang on one sec.
So we've got Tim saying your favourite was 3. I think that was also Grattensbrook. Good work. And then heading through those. So like I say, look out for Waterford we're taking it to whichever whiskey shows go ahead later this year, whichever we're allowed to get to. So we are trying to work on a little plan. So do come and see us if you're going to any whiskey shows. We should hopefully be at most of them. Or otherwise keep an eye out for the new releases. So the guys at Tomoka will get allocations of all the new releases coming out. Keep a little eye on that.
Yeah, I can't seem to bring him back in, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's a bit of a shame, but we'll say bye from here. I know he can hear me from the bottom screen anyway. So
okay.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
I can't hear it.
No, talking lots is good. People like the information. They like to buy into the distillery. So that's very much appreciated.
Yeah, I'll just say thanks to everyone. Thanks to Ned from everyone. Thanks to everyone for coming from us. But thank you, Ned, for joining us. And
just before we go, what was everyone's favourite? Because I saw on this chat here. Okay. So was there any clear winner that you said you pointed out, Stephanie?
Well, Grattensbrook, we've got a few people saying. And then Gaia has come up a couple of times as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, I do like the last one, but I think the Hookhead and the Grattensbrook for me were the kind of where my go-tos. I think definitely.
Yeah, I think there's different occasions for all of them, isn't there? So depending the richness of the Ballymorgan is just amazing as well. So they've all got different times you'd want to drink them. And then I also think the distillery character that Ned was talking about, they do taste like family as well.
Yes.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people here as well saying thank you, Ned, as well for giving up your time and giving us all that information. So, the biggest thing to remember as well, guys, massive 15% off anything. So obviously there's a lot to hear to obviously take your pick from, pick your favorite, and you do get a big 15%. You've got your tasting card there with your discount code on the back. And then at the moment, obviously we don't have any of these on our website because our whiskey site is awful. It's been redeveloped, and we can't really put it on our gin site. So just drop us a DM. In fact, I will send everyone out the email later that Stephanie's going to send me with the links. So just drop us a reply to that and let us know what you want to order, and we'll apply your discount and get the bottles in for you. So yeah, always make sure you do that. But other than that, it just leaves me to say thank you to Ned, thank you to Stephanie for another great evening. 5 amazing whiskies, again proving, you know, that the whiskey that's come out of Ireland is fabulous. These for me are on another level from what we've tried recently. Very, very good, and definitely up my street in terms of style. So yeah, amazing stuff. But other than that, thank you everyone, and we shall see you at the next one.
Thank you, everyone.
Hopefully it will let me stop the stream. If not I will.
You're looking
if not,
awkwardly.
if not, guys, I will just come out of it and then hopefully it will cut the stream. Yeah, give me one second.